Hi and welcome to OmniTalks. Today we are discussing defense sector and specifically how investors can continue to go about investing and taking exposure to this theme. So Vikas, today or like couple of days back, the global defense data spend came out from CIPRI, the international institute that tracks this defense spending, and they said that this touched all-time high of around $2.44 trillion, right? And maybe because of global uncertainties and the geopolitical scenario how it is evolving, but this seems to be one of the fastest growing area in terms of growth as we are seeing. India specifically has done significant on the defense side in terms of whether it is Atmanirbharta in defense concept or indigenization or export orientation and so on and so forth. And no doubt that this sector has remained one of the most talked about sector in couple of last 2 years or so, and we have seen a lot of new companies coming up, a lot of listing in this space, and a lot of value unlocking has also happened as we have seen. So what are your initial thoughts, like how at from this point onward how investors can look at this sector and how they can go about allocating capital?
So 2, 3 years back, it was very easy,
Yes.
right? They were pure play defense companies, and they were significantly undervalued.
Yeah.
So it was very simple to look at them.
Hmm.
Now many of those companies have become fairly valued or closer to fair value, or some might be even
Oh,
overvalued, right?
yes.
That depends. We still think maybe the private sector is more overvalued
Hmm.
and the public sector
Correct.
is. But now even the public sector companies are, many of them could be overvalued, right?
Correct.
Uh, Still, some of them are, I would say, still fair value,
Hmm.
but anytime they can
They
start
can.
going into the overvalued.
Right. Yes. I think here one thing is, the reported numbers is one thing, but for defense we have to look at a bit of longer horizon in terms of how the earnings or top line is evolving
Right.
because of the nature of the projects that they undertake. But even with that adjustment, I think a lot of companies, as you're saying, that have moved to very closer to their intrinsic value, which was not the case, let's say, 2 years back.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. So 3, 4 years back, I mean,
Hmm.
everything was maybe 20% or 10% or
Yes.
at best 50% of full
Full
valuation,
balance.
right?
Right.
So now they've gone up 4, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times also,
Right.
and now everything is, let's say, close to fair value
Sure.
on an average if you average out across. And I still say that the private sector was overvalued for a long time, and it's still extremely
Sure.
overvalued.
Right.
uh, so the problem is that first there are limited number of companies which
Hmm.
are pure play defense,
Right.
and now all of them have come into limelight,
Right.
and the valuation is the issue. So how do you take exposure and going forward?
Right.
If you still take in a overvalued stock or portfolio, then the problem is that your future returns are likely to be even worse than the market, right?
True.
So then what's the point of taking
Right.
into this sector?
Right.
Now what is the other way? So other way is that if you look for companies which are not necessarily pure play defense companies,
Right.
that they are into many sectors, they are not known as defense
Defense.
companies, but they do supply to defense,
Yes.
right? So if they have a segment or vertical which
Hmm.
supplies to defense, so you are still getting that exposure.
Right.
But let's say that the other business, overall business of the company is also strong,
Hmm.
and it's available at discount to intrinsic value,
Right.
then that's another
Right.
way of taking exposure
Sure.
to
Sure.
defense, right? So that is one.
So fundamentally, the company is good,
Right.
and its core business is doing well, and it is growing maybe at, let's say, the market rate or the GDP growth rate,
Or
but the
better.
or better also.
Yeah.
And because it has some or significant exposure to defense
Yeah.
as a supplier or as part of that domain, it will enjoy the extra growth rate that the potentially the defense sector can offer it. Right. Great. Yeah.
And then it can take exposure because
Hmm.
the government anyway wants to privatize or
Yes.
defense, right?
Right.
And nationalize, as in
Hmm.
nationalize, as in make it indigenous,
Indigenous, right?
right? So all those opportunities are going to be opened for
Open
everyone who's eligible or
for
empaneled with the defense supply, right?
right, right.
So all those companies become eligible.
Eligible.
And going forward, naturally, more capital, etc., is with private sector.
Right.
So there are companies which are into other businesses, but also defense.
Yes.
Defense will become a bigger and bigger proportion of their
Uh,
total
revenue
revenue
pie.
contribution. Right?
Yes. Sure.
So this is one way we can
Right.
uh,
So
expand the theme.
which are like broadly the, if I call them sub segments that you want to talk about, which are still keeping you on the defense theme.
So one is like making weapons and
Yes.
all that, right? So that is already covered in
Hmm.
the pure play defense
Right.
companies. Somebody is making torpedoes,
Hmm.
or somebody is making guns, or somebody is making
Sure.
even the submarines and so on.
Yeah.
All that is already taken care of. Now, the next way to do it is you have to understand one of the dimensions of war is logistics.
Correct.
So if you remember the Kargil situation, the Kargil thing was detected in at some point, and for at least 2 months, it seemed like the government of India was not taking any
Yeah.
action.
Right.
Or, and the reason was that you had to prepare the full logistics
True.
before starting
True.
it.
True.
So that logistics, getting the supplies, the tanks, the soldiers,
Yes.
ammunition, everything to the point where the actual fighting is going to happen, and then making sure that all the supplies are there, right?
Correct.
All that took 2 months. So that was
Right.
what was happening during the
True.
time. It was not that you were doing nothing.
Right.
You were fighting the war, although nothing was visible at the front.
Correct.
You were doing the logistics.
True.
So logistics and supplies is a very big part of war.
Yes, this has always been a great, like a very important strategy in terms of winning the war, right?
Right.
You cut down the supply chain and supply lines,
And the other guy
and
loses, right?
yes, exactly.
And he can keep saying, "I have a brave soldier," someone
Yes,
there's no
doesn't
meaning,
right.
right? Or I have the most advanced weapons,
Yes,
but
if
there is
you
no
true.
guns getting supplied. I mean, the
True.
bullets
And
getting
the
supplied
supply
for the
then
gun, so you can
yes,
have the most advanced gun,
sure, sure,
and it's not going to help, right? So supplies,
right,
and so I'll just give an example. For example, like India domestic aircraft sector is around 800 to 1,000 aircrafts,
yes,
while the all the defense forces put together, including the air force and everyone else, is about 2,000 aircrafts.
yeah,
Okay, and you can imagine, so and the kind of fuel it requires,
right,
right?
true,
So it's very simple. One of the plays could be something along these lines,
true,
right?
true,
So you have to think like that and broaden what is the war. War is again now no longer land, air, and water, right? So it's army, navy, air force is fine. Now there is cyber warfare.
yes,
Now there is warfare in space. Now there is warfare through economic means, warfare through controlling strategic supplies,
right,
right? So fuel is just one of them, right? Rare earth metals, other minerals which are very crucial for defense related things.
right,
All these things people try to control across the globe.
correct,
Where the mines are, where or certain ports are controlled. So you have to now think in all those multiple
strategic,
dimensions.
right,
Broaden what you know about defense,
sure,
what is defense, and then try to find what's a good unrecognized play.
sure,
Okay,
sure,
so those are the ways you can start expanding your portfolio and still get exposure to defense.
sure. So yeah, that's, I think that's very important, like keeping the focus, bringing the focus back on the valuations. And while the theme is great, the growth opportunity is great, but we have to, to be able to do better and to be able to reduce the price risk, if at
Right.
all, that creeps in, may creep in one's portfolio. They have to continuously focus on the valuation part as well, and broaden the theme and look at defense from broader perspectives, and include more such companies in their portfolios. Um any closing comment, Vikas, you want to make?
Yeah, I just want to look at the Nifty defense
Defense sector,
sector.
defense index, right?
Yeah, so that's right now sporting a 48p.
Yeah,
just to have an idea of
True.
an 11 price to book.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So that will help us understand that the well-known companies are quite overvalued,
Overview.
and you can't just go and invest in like a well-known defense company
Yes.
blindly. It's
Right.
all good. They have huge order books,
Yeah.
everything fundamentally
Yeah,
all
they're
strong, probably,
hmm,
but your price risk is too high.
too high. Absolutely.
So you have to become more flexible in thinking,
Hmm.
more broader in thinking, and
Right.
then find less known
Great.
opportunities.
Great. Thanks for joining us. So always keep in mind that investment in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing. And also that registration granted by SEBI, membership of BSL, and certification from NISM in no way guarantee performance of the intermediary or provide any assurance of returns to investors.